For 10 years, two teams battled it out to be kings of English football.
But we know how Van Nistelrooy behaves now. They can only cheat people who don't know him well.
Then I think you should keep his mouth shut, firmly shut.
And only one could stand at the top. One game, one moment could define a whole season. This was two teams willing to do anything to win.
It felt like he was going to war.
And nobody else could stop them. But this wasn't a professional rivalry. This was hatred, from the managers to the captains. Every moment was about destroying the other. It wasn't just football, it was war. It was toxic and chaotic. Yet in the chaos, both teams achieved feats English football has never seen before. No rivalry before or since has produced this kind of madness and magic. At the heart of it, Ferguson and Wenger. This is the story of the mind games, tunnel fights, even pizza being used as a weapon, and the defining moments in football history.
Comments in your interview that I'm really disappointed to hear that.
What was your view of the sending off?
I think Van Nistelrooy doesn't help, frankly.
How they even got to this point in the first place? All of the things that led up to this. Some you may have forgotten, some you may not even know about. It's a story about pride, revenge, rage, and joy. This is the battle for English football. The Premier League was formed in 1992 and one team emerged as the standout team, Alex Ferguson's Manchester United. 3 titles in 4 years. Some have come close, but no one so far has been a match for Fergie. He was a feared man in England, known for his relentless ambition and ruthlessness, instilling a culture of discipline and winning into the club. To dethrone Fergie would require someone on the same level of genius. Well, one club tried to find someone on that level, bringing in a manager who was coaching in Japan. No one had heard of him, but in October 1996, Arsenal FC decided to hire French manager Arsène Wenger. Despite coming from Japan, he was about to make a drastic change for Arsenal Football Club that would end up revolutionizing football. First being the changing of the fitness culture around the club. Players were no longer allowed to drink alcohol during the season, their diets completely changed, and their training regime was altered completely. This wasn't common practice in football. He also came with deep transfer knowledge of the international and French market, which other teams didn't have. Wenger's first 2 signings ended up being a 17-year-old Anelka and a 20-year-old Patrick Vieira. It meant very quickly the team improved under Wenger thanks to his unorthodox ways. They were going to be a serious threat to Man United, but Fergie's side was still the dominant force in England. In the 96-97 season, Arsenal was still second best, losing to them twice in both league fixtures. But very early on, their rivalry was formed. In that second meeting in February, Wright put in a bad challenge on Schmeichel. This prompted the pair to have a massive argument after the game in which police had to separate them. Wright claimed he was racially abused by Schmeichel and Schmeichel denied, and both managers came to the defense of their players. Wright and Schmeichel eventually settled their differences, but for the managers, this was the beginning of a fiery relationship. The verbal jousting continued in April 1997 when Wenger publicly dismissed the idea of extending the season for United so that they didn't have to play 4 matches in 8 days. Fergie was fuming with Wenger's disapproval and had something to say about it.
You should maybe concentrate with Ian Wright's tackles maybe rather than talk about Manchester United. He's at, well, they used to be a big club, Arsenal. Maybe next year he could be in the same situation. And I wonder what his story will be then. Unless you've been in a situation of playing 4 games in 7 or 8 days, then you don't know. Arsène Wenger's been in Japan for a year. He doesn't know anything about English football.
It was quickly heating up, but Fergie still reigned supreme. Arsenal were no match for United, who managed their 4th Premier League title in 5 years, and the team looked unstoppable. The question still remained, who was able to dethrone Manchester United? Was Wenger's Arsenal good enough? The following season, however, saw United suffer a major setback while Arsenal made a step up. The club captain Eric Cantona retired at just 30 years old in a shock move, meaning United had to sign Teddy Sheringham as a replacement. Wenger, on the other hand, used his deep transfer knowledge to sign Marco Vermaas and Emmanuel Petit, bolstering the attack and midfield. With these changes, it improved the Arsenal team, but the main test was to see how they would fare against the Premier League champion. Their first meeting of the season was at Highbury, and it was a vital game. Thanks to a Vieira screamer and a last-minute header, Wenger secured his first victory over Fergie and proved this Arsenal team was capable of beating the best. But at the end of the calendar year, it was United who were still frontrunners with Arsenal 12 points behind. Except something clicked for the Gunners. They started playing free-flowing football, scoring and creating loads. To start the new year, Arsenal were unbeaten and were playing much better, whereas United was slowly slipping. It meant heading into the reverse fixture between the two in March, there were heavy title implications. Whoever won would have the effective title lead, and it was just one goal that made the difference.
He's done it this time! Arsenal have scored!
This was a huge win. It blew the title race wide open. Arsenal had done the double over United, finally giving United some competition. This Arsenal team carried that momentum, winning 8 games in a row, making it 18 games unbeaten. The title clinch-up was against Everton at Highbury, where Arsenal won 4-0, including a goal from the captain, a perfect way to seal their first Premier League title after being 12 points behind United. But the accolades didn't stop there. Arsenal stamped their dominance over English football when they beat Newcastle in the FA Cup final, completing the domestic double. In just his first full season, Wenger pulled off an incredibly rare achievement while dethroning a previously unstoppable United side. Fergie knew how serious a threat Arsenal was, and if he wanted to reclaim the crown, he would need to rally his troops to win the next battle. Wenger now felt confident that his team had what it took to stay number one. With two managers who were both ready to fight to win, they gave us one of the most intense battles for the 1998-99 season. Both teams knew they had to improve, but first had to deal with losing some club legends. Arsenal signed a few replacements, including Ljungberg and eventually Kanu, while United went big. They broke their transfer record twice in the same window, signing Jaap Stam and then Dwight York. Yet it was Arsenal who got the first head-to-head win of the season, 3-0 in the Charity Shield. A lower stakes affair, but their first league match had way more on the line.
Anelka's in the clear again, and Schmeichel's denied him again, but with the follow-up, Anelka makes it.
Arsenal had dominated the game, and United players let their frustrations be known. If it wasn't clear who was the better side before, it was now. Ferguson, for the first time in years, had reason to worry. This wasn't just another challenger. This was a side that could end his empire. Wenger had built a fortress. Their defense was a wall of steel, led by Adams. By the end of the season, they firmly established themselves as the best defense in the Premier League. But Ferguson took a different approach. He built his team on relentless attacking firepower. They had scored way more than any other club in the league. Both teams had established dominance, with very little separating them, but it was their head-to-head matches that would be the difference maker in this intense battle. Their next clash came February 1999 at Old Trafford. With the tension high and the hatred brewing, Keane and Vieira had a coming together, both ready to literally fight for the badge. This was far from the last time Keane and Vieira fought, as the two started to embody the tense rivalry. The match, however, ended in a stalemate, 1-1. It was only weeks later when the teams had to face each other again in the FA Cup semi-final. But this meeting was more than just one match. Both teams were still chasing the league title, dreaming of the FA Cup, and United, they had another obsession, the Champions League. This match wasn't just about a place in the FA Cup final, it was about momentum, draining the other side's belief and seizing the psychological advantage for the rest of the year. With so much on the line, this is the match where history was made.
Alex Ferguson did advise against watching this replay alone. For the thousands who have reconverged on Birmingham, though, that was never an option. It's Beckham! Fabulous goal! Bergkamp's turn. Bergkamp's hit one! That's the side. It's Roy Keane. Keane went diving in. Foot turner in the game is sent off. It's recall for Arsenal. Tackled by Philip Neville. A penalty. In the 92nd minute, has a chance to send them back to Wembley. Oh, what a save! Unbelievable! Well, Vieira straight into the path of Ryan Giggs, who has York ahead of him and scores alongside. But he's run away from Vieira. It's Ryan Giggs wriggling into the penalty area. Giggs! Oh, fantastic! What a goal!
After 6 matches of not beating Wenger, Fergie's United finally got the job done, and it was the perfect moment to do so. Their treble dreams lived on. The momentum and belief swung in Fergie's favour. Just 7 days after reaching the FA Cup final, United beat Juventus 3-2 to reach the Champions League final. They rode that wave into their title run-in, but Arsenal were still very much in the fight. With just 2 games left of the season, both teams were on 75 points with a positive 42 goal difference. It literally doesn't get any closer than this. 2 games to decide the title, but both dropped points in their next games, meaning it was now down to the very last game. Both needed a win if they wanted the title.
Oh, it's Andy Cole. Can he get it over Walker? On the final day of the league season, and Manchester United are champions for the 5th time in 7 seasons, pushed all the way by Arsenal.
United had done it. They edged their rivals to the title, and with that momentum, they completed the domestic double, beating Newcastle in the FA Cup final, before travelling to Barcelona for a chance at the treble. And well, I think you know what happens.
York, cleared, Giggs with a shot, Sheringham! Beckham, into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! History is made. Which says Manchester United are the champions of Europe.
2 late goals to seal the Champions League title and complete a historic treble. One that would not have been possible if it wasn't for 2 magic moments in the FA Cup. For Wenger, he knew the tiny margins that made his team miss a back-to-back double. Meanwhile, Ferguson just reached football immortality. However, both men knew the rivalry wasn't over. It was just starting. The 99 summer window was a chance for both teams to gain dominance. But Wenger had to deal with a shock loss. Anelka, just 20 years old, was Arsenal's leading scorer, but he was sold to Real Madrid after requesting a move. Using his deep knowledge of the French market, Wenger turned to an unproven attacker with high potential from Juventus, Thierry Henry. A bold move, but Wenger knew he was one for the future. In Manchester, Fergie had his own problem. Legend Peter Schmeichel was on his way out, and they failed to replace him properly that season. Arsenal won their Charity Shield matchup 2-1, however, the real test was their first Premier League matchup at the very start of the season. Highbury, August 1999. This was supposed to be a home stand, a reminder to Ferguson that Wenger's men were still dangerous. Instead, it erupted into chaos.
Keane and Vieira clash, Giggs in possession, and the referee saw what went on there between Keane and Vieira. How is he going to deal with it?
Keane and Vieira's battle bubbled over yet again, but this time it was Keane who got the last laugh. Despite no title implications, this game was pivotal. Arsenal never really seemed to recover from this loss, and their defence was falling apart. They went from conceding 17 league goals the year before to conceding 43. It was a serious regression. Meanwhile, United, they hit a whole new level. They not only improved upon their goal tally from last season, but they obliterated the Premier League record for most goals in a season, with star players scoring plenty of goals. They were dismantling teams they faced, and the epic title race everyone was looking forward to was quickly put to bed. United lost just 3 league games that season and finished with 91 points that year. Arsenal were left stunned by United, and their quest for silverware in Europe was shot after losing to Galatasaray in the UEFA Cup final on penalties. Arsenal entered the 2000-2001 season desperate to prove that last year's collapse was a blip, but it was going to be hard to prove that because the team had lost 2 of their best players, Overmars and Petit, to Barcelona in the summer. They did make some signings to try and replace them, but losing these 2 would do serious damage. Despite that, Arsenal showed some fight. October 2000, Highbury. A chance for Arsenal to fight the leaders. Only 1 goal was scored that game, and it was a classic.
Henry!
For a brief moment, it felt like the tide could turn, that the momentum could shift. It didn't. It was nothing but an anomaly for United. They kept scoring, winning, and pulling away. By the time February rolled around, they were 13 points clear at the top. They were set to play Arsenal at Old Trafford, and losing for Arsenal would not only end their title hopes, but it would destroy the rivalry. And well,
Back, there's no flag. It's Grimandi playing York onside. Dwight York scores his second. Hit from Stepanovs. Dwight York! Here's Roy Keane, 4! That goes near post, and he gets Solskjaer. For Sheringham! Manchester United 6, Arsenal 1.
It was a humiliation. The gulf between the two sides had never looked bigger. United's good form continued right to the end, where they sealed their third Premier League title in a row. As for Arsenal, their consolation was an FA Cup final against Liverpool, and they lost. Suddenly the question wasn't, can Arsenal catch United? It was, are Arsenal even United's closest threat anymore? Patrick Vieira questioned Arsenal's ambitions. He was furious at the selling of Overmars and Petit, and disappointed in the failure of replacing them, doubting if they could win while barely spending. What would have frustrated him even more was the fact that United broke the club transfer record twice in the same window again. Ruud van Nistelrooy and Juan Sebastian Veron. Arsenal had been outspent and outmaneuvered in the transfer market again. But then Wenger pulled off the unthinkable. The club called for a press conference in July 2001 to unveil a new signing. There was no social media, no leaks. In this era, you only knew what you were told. Rumour was it was new backup goalkeeper Richard Wright. Yet the man who walked out of the shadows was Sol Campbell. The captain of Tottenham was wearing Arsenal red. It highlighted Wenger's ambition to sign one of the best centre-backs on the planet, boosting an aging defence. Suddenly, the power dynamic in this rivalry didn't look quite as one-sided. The 01-02 season still saw United heavy favourites, but something was off. In the summer, they sold their rock Jaap Stam and brought in an aging Laurent Blanc, a questionable move on paper. They started really slow, suffering 6 league defeats by December, including to Liverpool, Chelsea, and a bruising loss to Arsenal thanks to 2 Bartes mistakes. But it was their next meeting that would define not just the title race, but the entire rivalry itself. Arsenal that season looked reborn. With the addition of Sol Campbell, plus Ashley Cole and Lauren making major strides, their defense found their solidity once again, and the fortress was reinstilled. Plus, Bergkamp and Henry continued to play some of the best attacking football you will see. Both teams come March had gone on big runs, collecting a ton of points, leaving the title race neck and neck. But United blinked first. A tough 1-0 loss to Middlesbrough left them 1 point ahead, but with 2 more games. Arsenal smelt blood, knowing they had the perfect chance to reclaim the title. 6 consecutive wins through April meant Arsenal went 5 points clear at the top with just 2 games left. Their next match was against Man United at Old Trafford. The equation was simple. United had to win to take the title fight to the final day. Arsenal only needed a point and they'd be crowned champions. But for Arsenal, it wasn't just about the Premier League. 5 days earlier, Arsenal walked out at Millennium Stadium for their 3rd cup final in 3 seasons. Chelsea stood in their way, a huge test of nerve, and they passed, winning 2-0 and securing the FA Cup in style. This meant Wenger's side stepped into Old Trafford not just chasing the league title, they were chasing the double. Winning it there in the enemy territory would be the ultimate triumph. For United, that was the one thing they wanted to avoid. Humiliation on a scale never experienced under Fergie. Pride was on the line.
Arsène Wenger's Arsenal were the visitors to Old Trafford in May 2002. A single point was all the Gunners needed to take the Premier League title off the club that had been champions for 3 years running.
Going to pick up the championship tonight. They're going to have to do it the hard way against a very fine-up Manchester United.
And goes Vieira again. No doubt about that. There are tackles and there are time the midfield minefield. It's just a little bit of
Ljungberg is broken from his friend Ljungberg, and will Thomas score surely, and does, and gives Arsenal the lead.
They are the champions. They have taken the title away from Manchester United, and they have done it here at Old Trafford. It does not get more conclusive than that. It's been a particularly tough year to prove that you're the best in the land.
We complete the double. We have never lost away from home and scored in every game since the beginning of the season. That's absolutely tremendous.
They'd done it. The double at Old Trafford. A wound that would sting Ferguson for years. but it was a moment Arsenal fans would carry forever. Since Wenger's first full season in English football, it was now 2 titles to Fergie's 3. The rivalry was officially back on. Yet this time, it wasn't just about football, it was personal. Fergie said United played better football than Arsenal, even though they won the league. Wenger's response? Everyone thinks he has the prettiest wife at home. Fergie took this line personally, and it lit a fire under him. Heading into the 2002-03 season was no longer about winning. It was about taking each other down. The rivalry was at full boil. Wenger, riding the high of 2 long unbeaten streaks, including going the entire 01-02 season without losing a single away game, made the claim that electrified Arsenal fans and angered pretty much everyone else. It's not impossible to go through the season unbeaten, and I can't see why it's shocking to say that. To the media, it was arrogance bordering on delusion, and Arsenal still had to deal with some major losses. The retirement of Lee Dixon and Tony Adams, and in the transfer market they remained cautious as always. Fergie this time was the hunter. To chase Arsenal down, he smashed the transfer record to sign Rio Ferdinand, a statement of intent and ambition. Yet even with the lack of spending, Arsenal still started the season carrying on Wenger's claim that they could go unbeaten. Except on match day 10, a 16-year-old from Everton shattered the dream. Wayne Rooney announced himself to the world, handing Arsenal their first loss in 30 league matches. As for United, they looked sharper and hungrier. This was made evident when they hosted Arsenal and came away with a 2-0 win, reminding the league the Empire was not ready to fall. Then came another collision, this time the FA Cup at Old Trafford. It was a messy, scrappy affair, but Arsenal secured a 2-0 victory in Fergie's house, which for him was unacceptable. It was after this game that Fergie and Bex had their famous spat, and Fergie kicked a boot to cut David Beckham's eye, a fallout that would be costly for United. Plus, United not long after lost the League Cup final to Liverpool. With all the drama surrounding United, it looked like Arsenal were in prime position to win the league. Except United don't just roll over. They won game after game, putting serious pressure on Wenger's men. For Arsenal, the pressure started to crack them. They were 5 points clear, but after a loss to Blackburn and a draw to Villa, the lead disappeared. When the two met again with just 5 games left, it was a chance for either team to put one hand on the trophy. Both teams knew how important winning was in this tense war.
Ruud van Nistelrooy gives Manchester United the lead.
Here, Ashley Cole. Oh, it's in. But didn't take the...
Well, you heard the words, deliberate elbow in the face. It is red.
It was so close between the two, nothing separated them. It was just about who could hold their bottle. And for United, well, they didn't look back once. They kept on winning in their relentless pursuit to reclaim their crown. Arsenal, however, could not keep up. They drew 2-2 to Bolton before hosting Leeds in a must-win game and losing 3-2 on home soil. A team that had spent 25 weeks in first place crumbled in a matter of weeks, and United were there to pick up the pieces. They held their nerve and won the league thanks to a ruthless manager. The league trophy was only away for a year, but to United, it felt like a lifetime. The message was loud and clear. The Empire was still standing. Arsenal might not have finished the year with a league title, but they left with something. The team swept to another FA Cup victory after beating Southampton 1-0 in the final, coming close to a back-to-back double. This time, Wenger claimed that despite not winning the league, Arsenal were the better side. Neither manager could even admit their opponent won fair and square. Their hatred for each other would not let them. And going into the 03-04 season, it was going to be the most intense battle up to this point. Wenger had made his boldest move yet, or maybe it was his most foolish. He doubled down and yet again claimed he thought Arsenal could go unbeaten. An incredibly strange thing to do, and when you look at their transfer spending, it was even more confusing. They didn't make a marquee signing, nor did they spend a lot of money. United, on the other hand, had to deal with losing some big names. Beckham was on his way out, and replacing him was going to be nearly impossible. They made a couple signings, including an 18-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. Both teams went into this season confident, and it was no better place to test this than the Community Shield. And when it's Arsenal versus Man United, there's no such thing as a friendly. From the first whistle, tackles flew in with venom. Eventually, the tempers boiled over leading to some aggressive moments. Man United would go on to win on penalties, but this match was a warning, a promise that something far nastier was brewing between the two. They met each other early in the campaign. Both teams knew how important this game could be come the end of the season. With the aggression in games already bubbling over and the high-stakes nature of this match, both teams were ready for an all-out war at Old Trafford.
By far and away, the two most successful clubs since the start of the Premiership. Having worked hard to keep the ball, and now Mr. Roy jumps into him. Now did Vieira kick out then? He's off. Blew up. But they're not finished yet. They ain't finished yet. Well, it was as if Van Nistelrooy had seen a cobra spitting at him. Towards Forlan, but penalty against Martin Keane in stoppage time. This to beat fierce rivals, this to go top of the Premiership tonight. The responsibility rests with Ruud van Nistelrooy. Oh, he's missed it! He has hit the bar! Arsenal can't believe it, the final whistle. And Arsenal do get their draw, but it's not finished yet. They're all around Ruud van Nistelrooy. Well, Martin Keane was in his face right after he missed the penalty. There are people off the bench trying to pull the players apart.
I think Van Nistelrooy doesn't help. He's a great player, but his attitude is always provocation and diving, and I think on the pitch is not always a fair behaviour.
As far as I'm concerned, I can defend Ruud van Nistelrooy. And I've heard Arsene's comments in your interview there. I'm really disappointed to hear that, because Ruud van Nistelrooy had a foul on Patrick Vieira. Patrick himself had some fouls, and he's reacted badly. And Ruud is not dived, and the referee was no option. He had no alternative. As for the behaviour at the end of the game, well, I think the FA will be doing that anyway.
It was the most intense 0-0 draw in football history, but it fundamentally changed the relationship between the two clubs. They already hated each other, but this took it to new heights. The FA were furious and handed out a very long list of punishment to both clubs and sets of players, including some hefty fines and even suspensions for multiple Arsenal players. It was a record number of fines, and Arsenal were being branded as dirty. Yet the most important detail of this entire thing was the scoreboard. Arsenal had escaped defeat by a twist of fate. That single moment was bigger than anyone realized, opening the door for something historic. The rest of the season became a pure, unrelenting title race. By the halfway point, it was United who held the narrow advantage, but Arsenal still hadn't lost. The unbeaten talk that was once being mocked was now an uncomfortable reality for United. Every passing week, the question grew louder and louder. How long can they actually keep this going? Arsenal continued pressing. The longer the season went on, the more they looked like runaway favourites for the league. But now something else began to stir in Wenger's mind. Why settle for just the Premier League? Why not go for it all? Arsenal had their eyes set on the treble. The team in their way was Manchester United. They had 3 massive games in the span of a week against 2 strong English sides. First was United in the league. It was a chance for Arsenal to go 13 matches unbeaten. But for Ferguson, it was a chance to be the one to break the streak and end this fairy tale run. The game, like so many between them, was aggressive and unrelenting. Tackles flying in, tempers fraying, and both managers constantly arguing. Yet neither side could break through. A 1-1 draw, meaning the streak was still alive for Arsenal. Next was the FA Cup semi-final, very reminiscent of the 1999 semi-final. That was the game that won United the treble. So Arsenal knew how important this win was for their momentum. But with the chance to be the team to ruin their treble dreams, Fergie didn't let this opportunity slip. His side were able to win 1-0 and end Arsenal's treble hopes. And the loss lingered. Arsenal went into the Champions League quarter-final rattled and drained of confidence. They fell 2-1 to Chelsea, and in the span of 7 days, they went from fighting for 3 trophies to fighting for 1. Arsenal's only hope of salvaging a truly historic season was to do the unthinkable, finish the season unbeaten. Each week, they managed to maintain the streak until the game that every Arsenal fan would remember forever. White Hart Lane, the North London derby. Arsenal just needed 1 point to win the title in enemy territory again. And well, It was a special moment in history.
In amazing circumstances, the championship is won at White Hart Lane.
Arsenal had beaten United to the title and humiliated Tottenham on their own turf. They finished the season unbeaten, and by the end of the campaign, Wenger's insane claim became a reality. 38 games, 0 defeats. The Invincible.
It's a fantastic moment for us, and I always had that dream, and to fulfill it today, it's absolutely marvelous. And not to lose a game is absolutely amazing.
Whatever people can say, people will remember that the season 2003-2004, we were unbeatable.
United salvaged pride by winning the FA Cup, but for Fergie, it was hollow. Watching Arsenal go unbeaten burned him more than any loss in his career. More than anything, he wanted revenge. He wanted to be the one to snap the streak. It was 4-3 in titles since Wenger's first full season. At this point, it could only be one of two teams. The dominance Arsenal and United had over the league was immense, but heading into the 04-05 season was going to see this rivalry hit a point of no turning back. An ugly war was going to explode in ways English football had never seen before. The summer signing was simple. 18-year-old Wayne Rooney made the move to Manchester in a blockbuster move, but in their annual pre-season test, Arsenal beat United 3-1 in the Community Shield. However, the league was the real prize, and in the opening weeks, Arsenal continued their dominance. They carried on the unbeaten streak right into the new season and truly looked unstoppable. People already thought the league was over, mainly because their biggest rivals United was stuck down in 7th, already 11 points behind Arsenal. The shift of power was fully on Wenger's side, which made the next fixture the most important game of the season. Arsenal took a trip to Old Trafford, not just to bury United in the title race, but for a chance to make it 50 games unbeaten. A major milestone, one that Fergie was desperate to break. The tension was volcanic. Both managers were ready for the war. Police even had to issue a warning beforehand, not for the fans, but for the players and managers to keep their emotions under control. But a warning was not going to stop what would end up becoming the most controversial match in Premier League history.
Through the middle is Freddie Ljungberg, and Ferdinand struggling to get there, and Ljungberg's beyond him. Is that a foul? The referee says nothing doing, and Ljungberg is furious. Rooney. Manchester United set to press, penalty given! And Arsenal are livid! But Rooney went down, and Manchester United have a penalty kick. It is nearly a year and a half since Arsenal last suffered an English Premier League defeat. It's Van Nistelrooy! Arsenal are behind, they're under threat. It is Manchester United who lead. Here's Alan Smith, Rooney! No doubt about it now! Arsenal are bowled out for 49! It's all over! Arsenal are bowled out, one short of their half-century. They are invincible no longer, beaten not just by anyone, but by their very greatest rivals.
The referee made some decisions today. A lot of people would have questioned various different decisions, and at the end of the day, the decision went for us today.
I feel that we were the better team, and that the decision of the referee made the difference. Out from nowhere, Riley has decided the game like he can do it at Man United. We know that. I don't think there was any contact at all. Even Rooney told our players when nobody touched him.
I haven't seen it yet. I need to see it. Because he brought it down inside the ball. It's a penalty kick, I think.
Ruud van Nistelrooy appeared to go over the ball on Ashley Cole. Would you expect the FA to look at that? He didn't book him.
Yes, but we know how Van Nistelrooy behaves now. We can only cheat people who don't know him well.
There looked to be a slight fracas in the dressing room area just then. Can you tell us what happened?
I didn't see anything, mate, to be honest with you. I mean, we're all just elated that we won the game.
United had snapped the streak at 49. Arsenal had felt cheated out of the result. For this to be the way Arsenal lost, blinded them. After the game, outside the dressing room, the players fought with managers getting involved. It was a full-on brawl, punches flying. It was like one of them battles from back in the day when they just charge each other. During the commotion and fighting, someone threw a slice of pizza into the crowd, which hit Sir Alex Ferguson. The slap echoed down the tunnel, and everything stopped. I thought Ferguson was going to explode, but he stormed off into the dressing room. The culprit was years later revealed to be a 17-year-old Cesc Fabregas.
Noises like, what's happening? May I go out with my light of pizza? And I apologize, obviously, Sir Alex, sorry.
The next day, slight details of the fight emerged and it was plastered on the front pages. But no one knew the full story, and both teams decided to keep a tight lid on the true details about the incident. And so no fines or suspension were handed out, but the FA called both teams in a meeting to avoid any repeat of the adverse publicity that surrounded the game. By this point, no meeting could salvage their relationship. The two managers hated each other, and it was deeper than football. Fergie said to the press, "It's a disgrace, but I don't expect Wenger to ever apologize. He's just that type of person." Wenger's response was, "I will never answer any questions anymore about that man." He refused to even say Fergie's name. It had gotten so bad, the Premier League CEO at the time had to step in to force the managers to agree to a truce. In the midst of all of this, the two teams still had to play each other 3 more times this season. The first was the League Cup, where both managers fielded youth sides and United won 1-0. But the next game was a league match at Highbury, and it was clear the two teams had not settled their beef.
Coming in for the warm-up, he's chasing me up the tunnel, screaming at me, "Oh, you," or something like that. And he ran up behind me in the tunnel, and he went, "You won't kick our f***ing players today." So I goes into the changing room and sits down next to Dennis Irwin and said, "Vieira just had a go at me in the tunnel. He's just had a pop in the tunnel," which was...
I have to make him know, today we're not going to touch Robert.
I think I said to Gary, just forget about it. Just obviously we need to focus on the game. And then of course, obviously Patrick wouldn't let it go. You know, typical Arsenal bully.
So Roy's gone past him, and you've then started again in the tunnel.
Right.
And then Roy then comes back, and obviously that's when it all sort of like kicks off.
Then he started again in the tunnel just before obviously the game started. And that's where I kind of got a little bit irritated. But when they were doing that in the tunnel, I just felt that's the bit that would annoy me as a player. And I just thought, no, that's what I was probably annoyed at.
You're a nice guy. Nothing more in here. Understand?
He's already kicked off before they got on the pitch. Another tunnel fracas after Pizzagate.
Keane versus Vieira, the two who embodied this rivalry more than anyone else. Already tense, and we didn't even make it to kickoff. All of a sudden, the match had extra stakes because of that pre-match fight.
The skipper, the man involved in the fracas in the tunnel. Lovely, back to Giggs, deflected it in. United a little. Giggs, beautiful ball. Oh, chance, Manchester United. Goal, Manchester United. Cristiano Ronaldo.
Esther Ljungberg, not sure what we're doing. That's a red card. He's sent out Sylvester. Oh, he says he's butted him.
He's butted him. Off goes Mikael Sylvester. This, he's got O'Shea behind. And is this the clincher? Oh, you bet it is. 4-2. That's it. Manchester United, game, set and match.
United won 4-2. That win would tie their head-to-head record at 11 wins each and 6 draws. The stage was now set for their final clash of the season. By this point, the rivalry had cooled down, as it had gotten too out of hand. But there was another reason the flames were about to die down. A new power was rising. Chelsea, funded by Roman Abramovich, could spend hundreds of millions each window and build a super team. And after 2 years as owner, Chelsea steamrolled the 04-05 season, winning the league. Liverpool also capped off their season, winning the Champions League. The days of the league being a 2-horse race were over. While Arsenal and United fought viciously, other teams were gunning for top spot. Now they had to focus their attention on new enemies. But before the two teams could truly move on, there was still one more battle in this nasty war. The FA Cup final, a trophy on the line. And 500 million people worldwide were watching. United had dominated the game from the first whistle and looked like the team most likely to win it. But Arsenal somehow held on. 90 minutes became extra time became penalty, and the winner was decided from the 12-yard spot.
In Cardiff, offside! Brilliantly! Patrick Vieira for Arsenal. He's done it! Against all the odds, in terms of the way the match itself went, have won the FA Cup.
Wenger's men lifted the FA Cup, beating their greatest ever rivals to do so. The rivalry after the FA Cup final cooled a lot. Wenger and Fergie didn't speak again personally until 2009. Plus, the heavy hitters who fueled this rivalry, Keane, Vieira, Van Nistelrooy, Keane, they had all left by this point, and so there was less animosity. The rivalry also stemmed from competition, and well, there wasn't much competition after this. United, Chelsea, and eventually Man City all battled out for league titles, while Arsenal didn't win another league title after 2004. Their head-to-head finished in 2013, with Fergie leading the way. But at the end of both of their careers, they ended up good friends with a mountain of respect for each other. They pushed each other every single season and delivered us the greatest rivalry in English football. Even the players of the era have since settled their differences decades after the fact. But nothing can take away from the rough, toxic, aggressive war these two teams had. It's something we'll never see again. It truly was the greatest rivalry of all time.